Hi and welcome to this edition of Out the Box. My name is Paul. Today we're going to have a look at what is in this box. It's a new Sophos appliance. It is the Sophos XGS 2300. I'm not going to give you a big technical overview. I know you want to see what is actually in the box. We'll talk about it a little bit as we go through. So this is the unit itself, which we'll have a look at in a moment. You are then going to get a couple of meters of a power cable. This is an IEC connector, and since we're in Australia, a standard Australian power connector at that end. You are going to get a bag of some feet if you are wanting to mount that on the desk. You are going to get probably a 1.5 meter patch cable. You are going to get a small packet of screws. This is for fitting the rack mount ears that I'm going to show you in a moment. You are going to get a get started guide and a conformity guide, probably the one that you won't actually read. And all of this actually comes in a presentation box like this with a QR code on here to help you get into the unit. You obviously do the configuration on the unit itself using a web browser. You will also get a USB to micro USB console cable for a limited amount of out of bounds management. And you're going to get some rack ears. Now the unit itself isn't actually that deep, as you can see, but you do get 4 rack ears in total. So you get the standard small fits like this that are going to go on the front. You are also going to get some longer extended versions like this. So again, it's going to depend on how you want to fit these. In total, you probably can get away with fitting these on the front like this if you wanted to just hang it off the front. Depending on where the bar is in your rack, you can probably mount these here at the back. We just have a look. You should be able to mount these at the back here, and then you'll be able to put a smaller rack ear there at the front. So that's really all the items you get in the box. Let me show you the unit itself. Solid metal construction. It's a 1U rack mount appliance. The actual chassis itself here is pretty much identical to the model down, which is the XGS 2100. So what have we had? We've had the SG series, then we had the XG series, now we've got the XGS series. The XGS series have a dedicated processor in here, so have 2 processors in here, which increases obviously the speed of performance for being able to do certainly encryption, de-encryption and inspection. All right, so that's our main advantage that we're getting with the XGS. So let's have a little look at this. Like I said, this is the 2300. Let me just lift that up there so you can get a nice, good, clear view of all of the ports and everything on it. And then I'll just run those through. So you are going to get a basic console panel here, or a LCD that shows you basic things like IP address, throughput, and a few other items on there that you can use through these scroll buttons, which is sort of quite nice some of the time. You're going to get a bunch of indicator lights here that's going to show you the status of all your switch ports over here. You're going to get a console port here up at the top, a standard RJ45, and 2 USB underneath it, along with a small console port there. I think it's a micro USB as well. You can do a limited amount of out of bounds management with this at the console level command line, which might help obviously if you need to unlock the unit you locked yourself out. And then you are going to get a management port over here. So if you filled up all of these ports, obviously you could set this up into a different IP range and be able to gain access to the unit that way round. All right, so you're going to get 2 Sfp ports. So these are 1 gig SFPs. They are not 10 gig, they are 1 gig. And then we are going to get 8 more ports. All right, 8 more ports of 1 gig. So you get 1 LAN, 1 WAN as defined as standard. But like any firewall, you can manage those ports to be whatever you want. You can have multiple WANs, multiple LANs, DMZs, multiple subnets on your LANs. It's really up to you how you want to actually configure those. There's also a couple of pass-through ports here, which when set up, the manual shows you, then if there was an actual hardware failure, they basically trip into one if you like, short between them and turn it into basically an Ethernet cable. So you would still have access through into your network in a case of complete failure. All right, then over this side here, we have an expansion slot. There's 1 gig ports, there's 10 gig Sfp ports, there's additional Sfp ports. There's many different expansion options over there. So let me just hold the front up there again for you so you can see that clearly. Now, there is a limited amount. You can see a little bit of air intake holes here punched in. Your main intake points are on the side. So if you are running a hot or a cold aisle system and you're drawing air from that aisle across the top of this unit, just be aware of the airflow. You really will want enough ambient air within inside the rack cubicle itself because that's going to be getting expelled out of the back. You can see the two expellation fans here. We have an on-off switch here, which is also part of the standard setup and also by our expansion module where you can add in your secondary power. And again, here we have our IEC power input. Let me just hold that up so you can have a clear look. Hopefully that's been useful. Where would I actually position this unit? The 2300, the XGS 2300 for me is a unit that's going to be solid at around about 800 to 1 gigasecond quite comfortably with all security services turned on. And I would position it probably in an organization that maybe has 50 to 100 staff, somewhere along that type of line really for what you're wanting to do. Do head on over to our YouTube channel. We've got loads more box openings on wireless networking and firewalling devices. And we've got performance reviews there. You can see a performance review on the new XGS 136, which will show its performance sitting at around about that 500 or 600 megasecond with all security services turned on. So do subscribe and stay up to date. But hopefully that's been useful. This is the new Sophos XGS 2300.